Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Glad to have you be welcoming us or coming back to our 2026 Thought Leader webinar series. Excited to have Gray Falkon joining us today. They're our expert in all things, brand protection. And so, it's going to be a great, 30, 35, 40-minute session here. We're lucky enough to have Gray Falkon CEO Trajan Bailey joining us. And coming with them is Greg Terry from Cumberland Packaging as Senior Director of Omnichannel Sales. And so I think the combination of perspectives talking about both challenges as well as solutions should be a really fun one today. And so I'm excited to sit back and listen myself as well. As is kind of traditional with this series, as I alluded to, probably about 30 minutes or so of prepared remarks. And then we always want to leave time for Q&A. And so if you do have any questions, as always, please submit them. Any questions we don't get to, I know the Gray Falkon team would be happy to follow up offline. So again, submit questions. I'm guessing we'll get to all of them, but if we don't as well, we'll follow up with you, certainly within the next few days. Always shifting gears just quickly, always want to give a shout out to our e-commerce summit, which Gray Falkon will also be speaking at this year. That is August really 13th, and so exactly 3 months away. Registration is open, and the room block is moving fast. I think the room block is already 50% full. So book your flights, book your hotels, and that'll be coming up here in 3 months. So shifting back to today, want to hand it over to Trajan. And so without further ado, take it away.
Yeah, thanks so much, Nick. And anything Cleveland research, my favorite thing. And the e-commerce summit is amazing. So I'm really excited to be there for that. My background, so, it's brand protection, channel control, that kind of thing is what our company does. My background, though, is marketing. So my whole career has been in this, how do I grow? How do I increase share? How do I increase awareness? All of it. And then to get into this brand control side, this brand protection side over the last 8 years has been a really interesting journey, pairing those things together. And so I'm really excited about this topic. And it's one that, it's been a discovery. One of the early pioneers, part of that discovery is Greg. So I'm really excited to have him here. But it's this, this situation in which we know that complexity of advertising on Amazon, it's a necessary thing to do to grow your business. We've talked to many brands who aren't even on Amazon who made a decision to get there or have found ways to partner to make their ways there, and advertising is always a huge part of it. I like that. It's a $68 billion question. On top of everything, maybe this is the one more thing to be afraid of, but as everything grows and you put together your own plans, I know you're already contemplating, sorry, I keep hitting the wrong part. Increasing your investment. And it's not just the investment in, what is the content, the ads, but what is your strategy going to be? And a lot to think about in the content to make sure you're showing up in search results and that it's compelling so that, as you drive demand, that you're differentiated, that they see your product first, and when they get to your product, they feel compelled to do it. And there are a lot of different great solutions out there. I love anytime I've seen like the keyword optimization and getting a brand an opportunity to see how they're displayed and how quickly they're displayed with just a couple of tweaks, and to show up and they're ready and they're there. What we've learned, though, is that even the most successful, you get everything ready and prepared, that there's a lot of unknown there about who is actually capturing the sale as a result of all of that work. There's buy box, which is a measure and a good measure, and standard measure, I think, and maybe the only clear one about how well your ad performance may be doing, in addition to click-throughs. But there are a lot of leakages that can show up through it. So you're increasing spend because there's more competitive activity. Other brands are increasing their spend. And even when they get to your product detail page, there's still opportunities for somebody to jump in and steal away that sale from you. I want to talk through two scenarios that are common for it. So one is, which everybody is probably more aware of, is when third-party sellers are on your product detail page. And so, it seems to be, they drop the price, you do all the work, you get together you pull together all the content, the strategy, AdWords, get them all the way there, and a competitor, third-party seller, all they have to do is drop their price. That's all they have to do. And they can grab the buy box. I mean, it's simplified. Drop price, maybe mess around with how many inventory they're reporting, but that's it. All of the work, all of the science, all of the investment, and in a moment, all of that work goes away. So that's a major source of leakage, and probably one you're most familiar with. The other side, a lot of brands or a lot of companies I found aren't, they're aware, but maybe it's almost it's too hard to figure out or think about. So it hasn't shown up in a lot of the metrics that different brands or companies focus on, but it's that unauthorized duplicate other product page or ASIN that shows up next to your own. And, we'll hear out in the marketplace that said, well, they're maybe not grabbing that much share, or they're temporary, or it's substandard, but the really amazing thing about these guys is they can, with a few clicks, just as easily take your content and strategy as they would on your own product detail page. Click, and they've got your media assets. Click, copy, paste, they've got your text, everything else to go along with it. They're competing for space now. And so they're your direct competitor to grab the space, and now your costs of ads increase to be able to get it. So not only are you combating on your own ASINs to drive demand there, you are now having to pay more to keep people from going to a completely different ASIN page. And like I said, I think it's, I think some of it is it's difficult to quantify, how much is going to those other pages. Really, it's really difficult to know how much share. And then when you're going through some of the standard measures of ad performance, particularly, that is a really invisible spot for you. There are a lot of the complexities too. So it's the, like I talked about with the other unauthorized product detail pages and sellers there, they are not unsophisticated people, so these are professional. Many of them have bigger ad budgets than you might. They are millions strong. They're great at innovating together. Map control can't accomplish it either because Amazon doesn't care. If you want Amazon to shut down any kind of plea for help, just mention anything that sounds like channel control or map. They do not want to get involved in it. And in a way, it's counter to their purposes. They love to have third-party seller activity. It applies a lot of price pressure to you. Why not ask for additional ad revenue? I think Amazon is one of the most amazing revenue generating at every opportunity machines I've ever seen. Like anywhere you go, they're making money off of it. The additional side of it is this evolution of agentic. Right? our head of marketing passed an article this morning about Amazon now an answer to outside AI, and agentic AI is getting Alexa involved in the shopping. And one of my favorite things is they've said in the article is, well, we're not doing anything to disrupt the ad strategy and search. We're just going to do it when it enhances the consumer experience. It's just code word for another way that they're going to be able to capture some ad revenue and sponsored revenue off the platform. And with all of this agentic and everything else, it's going to throw off the metrics you use. So what eyeballs are really seeing your stuff, and what is actually, is it a person or is it an artificial intelligence that is clicking through those ads to get there? So that's another big place where you'd be spending money on ads based on some metrics that are being provided to you about performance, and in reality, it's jumping right to the lowest price. Again, the buy box, or the lowest price, not even your ASIN. So it's, as always, it's not the so it's hopeless at all. And these things are in your control if you have the focus. You can do it. You can apply some of these controls, which we've talked about in a prior one, but it's, with control, it's not a guess to say, well, it's my buy box. I'm owning this % of it. I spent this much on advertising. This is my click-through. So this is my demand approximately, and this is my capture of that demand, and here's my ROAS as a result of it. But the incrementality of any kind of spend, I mean, how do you know? What is your what is your potential capture? What it could ultimately be? If you had the best, if we just remove the noise, if you could get rid of the third-party seller component of it, then you're going to be able to say, well, here's how much my strategy is worth. Here's how much I can capture. Here's how much more if I put it in here. Here's how much more I'll get out of the ad spend. Sorry, a second. As you get more control, it's not just own more buy box. Now you have control over price. You have control over mix and which products you feature, all of it. And so with greater clarity and transparency and control, you can capture all that you are after. As you do that, it begins to multiply. So it's not just, it's not just the own more of the buy box and not have to pay as much for your advertising. You won't see as much swing in your price. You won't have it to monitor and make adjustments constantly. The tools that you're using together to try and manage this puzzle of optimizing your Amazon presence and advertising just gets a lot easier. It's stable. Now you're only, in quotes, you're only getting at a consumer instead of having to balance all of these other stakeholders. I think probably the best of this story is really Greg, because he was the really the, like I said, the early genesis of switching us onto this. And if you don't mind, Greg, I'll just shift it over to you.
Yeah, that sounds great. Appreciate that, Trajan. Really, and I want to focus in on the pricing aspect that you mentioned. Really, that is controlling pricing as a 1P, doing business with Amazon, one of the most challenging elements. And so what we found was when we hired and partnered with Greg Falkon to eliminate all these rogue third-party sellers and listings, something very interesting happened in that we also alleviated or eliminated the upward pressure on Amazon's algorithm or pricing algorithm, and so instead of having a price that fluctuated daily by as much as $6 a day, right, all of a sudden prices came down to their intended list price, and they just stayed there. Whereas prior to working with Gray Falkon, pricing was bouncing all over the, I'll use this one item as an example for you guys today. We have a sugar in the raw 200 count packet, and it was bouncing between, $12 a day to $17 a day, down to 11. It was just all over the place. Once pricing stabilized, and really the reason it stabilized is the algorithm that does all the automatic pricing for Amazon no longer had so much noise, right? We had probably, I think, over 30 listings of the same ASIN. Some people were stealing my buy box. Some were just spinning up, similar ASINs, right? Same item, like trades and talk. And so once those were cleared out of the way, right, pricing came under control, and it was where I intended it to be, which was quite a bit lower. Right, pricing went down to about $10.94 on average, and then I think some of these KPIs will really demonstrate the value. First off, traffic to my page, my listing where I had the buy box, increased 20%, and conversion went from 44% to 65%. And I will tell you, just from an e-commerce perspective, when those two things are happening simultaneously, traffic is growing and conversion rate is growing. Mathematically, there's only one way for sales to go, and that is up. And so our unit sales went up 31%, right? Which is really, I think, how I measure the overall return on investment with this partnership. And it's a resounding win for us. That said, I think today's topic is really around ad spend efficiency. And look, there are some items where I literally don't have to spend at all. I went to zero, but that's probably not, the most indicative of what, right, the typical results. So I used this item just to kind of do something a little more normalized. And our advertising cost of sales, right, which is ad spend divided by ad attributed sales, it went down by about 1%, right, 17.5 to 16.6. So we are selling a lot more and spending less to do it. I think that's about as good as it gets. And honestly, I'll just say, Trajan, we so appreciate this. Was such an easy turnkey process to get started, and I think maintaining it's been even easier. So from that standpoint, we certainly appreciated all the work and effort that your team does. And really, it's probably the easiest success story I've ever authored in my career. So thank you for that. And I think to maybe give you some more ways to look at and measure this, I think the next slide, Trajan, you have a screenshot of our dashboard. I'll turn it back over to you and let you walk through this dashboard that you created. But before you do, I'll just say, I use this with our senior leadership, and it's been very well received. We've really enjoyed being able to look at some of the things you're going to walk everyone through, and it really just kind of confirms for us we made a really good decision in this partnership. So with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Greg. And I always learn a lot from you and your enthusiasm. And particularly what I love about it is, if you look at our dashboard, if you're already a customer of ours and you have these dashboards, or, we pulled it up so you could have a look at it, there is, what we provide is, I guess we'll say, the state or flow of the online third-party seller activity and how it changes. For the ROI and how it's measured within your company, that is yours. And that's a lot of the genius that Greg has, and some of our other customers shared with us too, is what are the metrics. I think early on, when Greg and I were working together, he started sharing some of these measures with me, such as I've already paid for the whole year because I am not overspending on my advertising now. You know, I can redirect to the places I need it to go. And that was even before we got into him sharing with us like the incremental sales he felt he was able to drive as a result of having control over what he's great at. That's what he's great at. That's what you are great at, is I can, is applying the mix of content and strategies to get people to go to your sites. And then we make sure things are in control so that you can capture it. You know, the Amazon, if you joined the last time, or even if you didn't, you know, just Amazon gets more and more complex all the time, and the number of rules that they pay attention to. I don't think the number of rules materially change. It's just thousands all the time. You know, it just is all the time. But what are they focused on? What are they enforcing? And so here's an example one of, you know, it's a seller, you know, and this happens all the time in a seller forum, saying, my account is getting impacted, you know, and this is what the note I got from Amazon. I didn't even know that was a rule, and how do we find our way around it? You know, that just means opportunity. It just means for you, for us, for any of us to protect the brands, protect the demand that you're driving is through Amazon itself. It is not just a great monetization engine, but it is protect the consumer experience engine. And so with them enforcing more, them implementing more tools, that gives you greater opportunity to control this too, this part that's been kind of mysterious and previously unmeasurable. Again, just what we do, and then turn time over for questions. Our company was founded on that principle that the consumer experience is the number one to Amazon, is the number one to you. That third-party sellers are unafraid of a bunch of the "I will sue you" situations. They know it's impossible to enforce, but all sellers, everyone must follow the rules that Amazon sets out for them. And so, you know, the way that we approach the market is to understand all the rules that Amazon is paying attention to. We communicate to the sellers to get them an opportunity to correct their own behavior, move, so that you have control over your brand and what happens with your brand online. And those that won't heed that we will automate the reporting of Amazon violations, policy violations, and just rinse and repeat over and over until Amazon will do what they do to enforce their brand and to keep third-party sellers at bay. Through that, it's, you know, within the first 3 months, typically, you know, 65, 70% removal. Within a year, 85, 95% removal of third-party seller activity. Most of our companies find you know, increase in profitability and price within the first 8 weeks. Now, that's ours, but it's yours too. I mean, we have the tools to make that easier and the automation, but that is your opportunity too. With us, without us, it's use Amazon to enforce its rules, and you'll see remarkable improvement in what you're able to do with your ad spend and just your overall sales growth. It is your opportunity to do it. So the great democratization. Love our tech, love our AI. We are going to be amazing for you, but it's not just a commercial. This is something you can do for you to really grow your business. Okay.
Awesome. Drake, are you ready for some questions? Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. No, thanks for that. And had a few questions, come in. And Greg, maybe you can chime in here as well on a few, a lot of them in similar veins. And so maybe, Greg, I'll start with you. A number of questions around, hey, love the success story. Can you talk about things you were doing internally as well when you're talking about clearing up marketplace, avoiding channel conflict, anything you did internally to stabilize SRP? So, Greg, maybe walk us through some of those internal steps as well.
Yeah, that's a great question. Absolutely. And here's the remarkable answer. We didn't do anything. Like, the only step we took was partnering with Great Falkon. And part of that is because I knew when I got here that the first thing before we add any more funding to ad spend or really overhaul content, any of that stuff, the first thing I need to do is get rid of all this clutter, right? I think one of the basic foundational elements of e-commerce is focus. You want fewer, all the eyeballs on your listings, right? You want to focus people in just on a few things, right? In this world of limitless assortment. And so until we cleared the channel, we didn't do anything. And that was intentional and strategic. So, yeah, hopefully that answers the question, but if not.
Yeah. No, I think that really helps. And so then maybe Trajan, a question for you that kind of came in a few different ways, but basically asking the same thing. Okay, so hey, if it's not taking the I will sue you path, I guess in plain English, what is that path, or what are the sellers receiving? What's working to make it so effective?
Yeah, thanks, Nick. It's a great question. And I like to compare it because everybody thinks of cease and desist, even when we first talk to people, cease and desist. And there's a major difference. Cease and desist is you have broken this, usually intellectual property law, remove your listing, we'll sue you. These are different, and the brands really decide what to send them. But all of our templates, everything that we recommend is to say, our consumer experience is number one to us, and we are intentional and serious about making sure our consumers have a safe and great experience with our brand. So we're monitoring Amazon, and we see things we don't like. Lots of rules are being broken. Sometimes they'll list a few of the rules that may be particularly bothering them, but just to give an example of some, and then say, some will ask for information to say, where are you getting this product? Because who knows where it's coming from. They're not worried. Most of our brands are not worried about counterfeit. Some are, and we can solve that, but most of them are just worried about product that's been that is otherwise than the best in quality they hope to get it, or the way they hope to do it. So they'll ask for information where they get the product, and we get a lot of information that helps the brands tighten some of that up, and then fix or remove your listings, or just remove your listings. And then it's a series of messages. The reinforcement at the end of it isn't, or we will sue you. The difference is we'll report you to Amazon, and Amazon will decide what to do. Third-party sellers, they know what that means. It's everywhere. That they call it violation of Section 3 of the Amazon's Code of Conduct. It's terrifying to get that message, or to have somebody next to you get that message, because Amazon will close down stores or close down product lines, remove them, make it really difficult to do. And so they pay a lot better attention to it. And if they're not in control of it, they're worried, then they prefer just to move.
Yeah, and so we had a question as you were talking come in, that is the escalation, because that was one of the questions. It was okay, what if they're not responsive? And you said a series, what is that escalation? And maybe you just said it, but give a little bit more color there.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. And that's the important thing. I've got 4 kids, so I can only do the warning and increase the intensity of that warning a number of times before I've got to follow through. And it's the escalation. And different brands have different comfort levels with what they will report to Amazon out of the gate, or over time, or how they want to scale it. You're probably already experiencing it, how you do it in your own, but that can be done in strategy too. to say, well, what were some are more, I won't say gentle, but the consequences may not be as severe as blowing up their account health immediately, but others are. I mean, it's if a brand is having a severe problem, like one of our, well, multiple of our brands carry multiple products, so in the summertime, I may have brought this up before, but in the summertime, we'll do some buys just to see chocolate, for instance, how much third-party seller shipped chocolate is melted when it shows up at a customer store. It's, in our experience, it's 76% of the time. 76%, I mean, that's a serious issue. And so our brands will say, in this case, it isn't an intellectual property. It is not an intellectual property, but it is a severe violation to say these companies are shipping product that has been compromised and is melted, and it's more severe. They'll pull the listings and then start to take action on accounts. So, yeah, that's the escalation, is to get Amazon to step in and do what they do.
Certainly, Greg. Maybe to get you back involved, when you talk about brand control, where have you found it in terms of where it sits internally, right? Marketing, sales, legal, finance, e-com, ops. I know there's a lot of hands in that cookie jar, and everyone cares about it, but maybe coming from a different angle. So what have you found to be most effective where that it sounds like you were maybe the one that let it off? Is that where it continues to live? And any color there?
Yeah, no, great question. Actually, you're going to get me to do a plug for the conference, e-commerce conference that you guys host out later in August, because when I'm out there, I speak to a lot of brands and ask the same question. Like for us, the answer is it's sales, because I'm part of the sales team, and this was kind of some knowledge, I guess, that I brought to the company that we didn't have before I got here, right? So it resides with me. That being said, what I hear from the majority of folks selling as one piece is it's 50-50. It's a bit of a hybrid, right? It's a bit of a marketing role, it's a bit of a sales role, probably just whatever's most effective for a given organization in the way you go to market. It can reside either.
Helpful.
Yeah. Does that help?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know every organization operates a little bit differently as well. So, hard to answer some of those org ones in broad brush strokes. And hey, appreciate the shout out as well. And yeah, would love to see everyone out at the summit. But Trajan, maybe going back to you here. Questions continue to come in, so I appreciate everyone's contributions here. Have one around just AI and so maybe a broader, a little bit more philosophical to a degree question around like AI's impact on brand control. And I guess you could take that in a few different directions depending on what this individual fully means. But whether it's AI making it more important, which I would imagine the answer is yes, but also maybe the proliferation of sellers being able to put up content, putting up listings. And so, what have you seen maybe in the early days, but also just broadly as you maybe put your, look into the crystal ball, if you will.
Yeah, it's mind blowing, really. I'm enamored with anything and all things that can be accomplished with AI. Yeah, I mean, anything and everything that can be done for a seller, since you brought that up first. You don't even need to borrow a brand's assets anymore. If you want to create, as a third-party seller, if I want to create stellar quality video and product imaging and adjust the image, and sellers will do this. I mean, the really unsavory ones they'll even remove branding elements of a product and sell it so that the consumer's aware, but they think they're skirting a line to get away with something. But they can create anything, any kind of content, and they can optimize that content. I with any of the open source or for cost AI platforms, I use ChatGPT a fair amount, but not singularly. I can create any kind of digital image. I can optimize text. I can compare it with any other product I want. So if I want to look at rankings and have it digest Amazon rankings and look at the different, at a text level, at image level, any of it, as a seller, I could do that. On the other side of it, we use it a lot. I mean, it's we use it to communicate with sellers, so that it's an actual conversation that we can keep in control. So there isn't a person who can get angry and fight with a seller. They stay within control. They only say the things that we want them to say, and they can have a conversation and say, is it really worth it, for example, or get them to provide information. That's a really simple exercise of it. We do it for image recognition. Like I said, the sellers that are adjusting logos, moving the logos, moving things around, we have really incredible image recognition. So one, we can find the listings. If they're trying to be clever with keyword search, we can use it to demonstrate a case to Amazon where people are taking digital assets and unfairly using the brand. And we use a lot of text analytics to do the same, what rules are being broken. And we do it to compare, like I said, we monitor a lot of third-party seller forums, and we use AI there too. So it is telling us what the biggest trends are in Amazon enforcement. And yeah, I mean, I love it. It's amazing. You can have it estimate. Yeah. Anyway, I'll stop there. Right.
Trajan, can I jump in? Could I just throw one quick thought out there, just right from my perspective, with agentic, right, commerce, right, whereas as Chat and Claude and those folks are starting to help people shop more and more, right? The adoption's exponentially growing. The thought, if there is a third-party listing out there that is not something it's rogue, right? I didn't authorize it. The fact that it exists means there is a chance that these agents are going to end up returning the reco to be that item, right, listing and not mine. And the way I see it is our companies invest a lot in brand, messaging, brand equity, building all that, generating all the demand for someone else to just steal the sale. That's not something I'm comfortable with. So the more we can tombstone those rogue or non-authorized listings, the less opportunity for the agents to end up recommending the sale to somebody else.
Sure. Yeah, well said, Greg. I know all that brand equity gets built up, and then someone kind of jumps on top and takes advantage. It takes advantage of that spend is certainly dilutive to
well said.
Your overall. Yeah. Well, hey, maybe one or two more. I know we're approaching kind of the 45-minute mark here. So, Trajan, maybe a quick hitter one. Had a question come in around reviews. So obviously experience in removing sellers off the platform. What about when it comes to specific reviews that maybe violate Amazon's, T's and C's and overall guidelines? Any experience color or, technologies that help there?
Yeah, well, it's the, they are same tools. I mean, we'll do a lot of analysis around reviews, certainly. Challenge in the review part is who's doing it. I mean, you can fight and get a review removed, right? And say this is unfair. You can appeal a review. Really, the review belongs to the third-party seller. If there's a third party, or maybe it belongs to your brand, but that's really what you're after. If you're doing everything right and it is best for the consumer, but you're getting a negative review based on product quality or experience, that belongs to the seller. So there are things that could be done to shift them from your ASINs over to a seller. But really, the biggest problem is just getting the sellers away. It is having the control over the consumer experience, not just over what's on the product detail page. That's going to solve that problem. So you get rid of the rogue, unauthorized ASINs. They're usually the ones that more commonly could have bad reviews because they're opportunistic sellers can be behind those. Not always, but just removing those clears up the review issue. And then certainly removing the third-party sellers that are affecting the
maybe last one.
Count.
Yeah, no, maybe last one, and no, I appreciate the point. I think it's well taken that to avoid the bad review in general, having you as the seller, the consumer experiencing, frankly, the the experience that they should by not having a bad seller is well taken. Maybe the last one here around. A question, I don't know if it's like pushback, but I think it's just a curiosity around, hey, when you get to the point of, flagging, reporting sellers in mass, is there any risk that Amazon starts to ignore that behavior because it looks almost as spam if it's happening to a certain velocity or certain degree? So any color there, I think, Trajan, would be super helpful in maybe helping folks maybe understand what's behind the curtain a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not the volume. It's like you talk about, what does it look like? I mean, if it's, for us, it's not, it's somewhat templated, it's common. It's here's the evidence, here's Amazon's rule, please take action. We never ask Amazon, and you should not either, ask Amazon to take, a specific kind of action. They're going to do what they want to do anyway. So largely that's what it is, but for each thing this is the misbehavior, this is the policy, it's all in different, language. We use AI for that, so it's not the same words over and over. So no, the scale is not an issue. It's just if it seems mindless, throw spaghetti against the wall, is there even anybody behind it? Yeah, then Amazon will ignore it. But no, if it's a legitimate and clearly presented case, they will take action.
Yeah, and I'll go so far as to confirm that was our experience. I don't know if you saw our dashboard, but I mean, you guys filed thousands of violations on our behalf, and Amazon, quite frankly, they upheld just about every one of them, and yeah, there was never any like red flag from Amazon or something like that, right? Like does that.
Yeah,
651,000. That's probably units. I don't know how many sellers and listings, right? But it's thousands, and it was as smooth as can be, and there's really no like pushback from the sellers to me as Cumberland, because I didn't do anything, right? And nor did Great Falcon. We filed a violation, right? Like they filed on my behalf, but Amazon ruled and made the decision, right? It's an Amazon issue, so the one or two people that dared call me about it, right? Like you'll have to speak with Amazon. They're the ones that actually closed your shop there. So it's as painless and easy as could be.
I think that's a great place to wrap. And gentlemen, appreciate both your times today. I think it told the story well and maybe answered a lot of these questions that came in. I don't think we're able to get to every single one of them. There were 13 or 14 that came through. So I know team would be happy to follow up offline with you. But again, appreciate Greg and Trajan's time. Appreciate the audience's time here today, and hope you have a great rest of your week.
All right. Thank you very much.